Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to another episode of LVAD Talk. Today, I am sitting here with Mr. James Overton. You guys, a lot of people don't know I have more than one podcast. I have two podcasts. I have this one, LVAD Talk, and I also have the 757 Renaissance Man podcast, where I highlight different individuals and organizations and businesses from the 757 Hampton Roads area where I'm from and where Mr. Overton is from. And we crossed paths, and I had to think like, ooh, he could be on the 757 Renaissance Man. And then I find out that you had an LVAD. So this is meant to be. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to an inspiration, a role model of mine, a broadcaster in my area, Mr. James Overton. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Shawn. How are you? You know, it's a pleasure, my pleasure to be on here with you. I've watched a few of your broadcasts and very impressed with what you do, especially I'm following you too because I look at all your gadgets that you call your toys, all those little things that you can add a little something to the broadcast.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Impressed by that. So, excuse me. Excuse me again. As we continue, you know, with our broadcast, so I'm sort of watching you and seeing what we can add to our broadcast, because all this is important, you know, as far as along with the information that's shared. You have to have those little things people watching that associated with whatever you're talking about. So I applaud you on that, brother.
Thank you, sir.
And we crossed paths, you know, finding out you were LVAD recipient and patient now. You know, that's always dear, and this pun is included, is intended, dear to my heart. When I run into LVAD patients. So.
Yeah, we're definitely in a very exclusive club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I was an LVAD patient for about 3 years, and now, thank God, I'm a heart transplant recipient.
Yes, sir.
2015, I received my heart. But I had the LVAD because I guess you know, when you're first diagnosed with heart failure or whatever situation with your heart, you know, they try to treat it with medication. But I was getting sicker and sicker and lost a lot of weight and everything. So the alternative was they were talking mechanical heart. You know, and I saw someone in the hospital that had a mechanical heart, and it's this huge contraption. Maybe it's gotten, you know, better now, you know, for someone with failure in their right side of their heart. So, but I qualified for the LVAD, which is the left side assistance. And I got that. And during the time I had that in the beginning, something went wrong with that. So they had to go in there again and put a new one in.
So you had two LVADs.
Two LVADs. And when they went in for the second one, you know, the chest hadn't even healed yet. But they had to do what they had to do because mechanically, the LVAD I had put in at first was not doing what it's supposed to do. But the second one, you know, carried me along for 3 years. And, you know, it's kind of a catch-22 thing when you have the LVAD, as far as if you qualify to be on the transplant list, when you have the LVAD, you get healthier.
Right.
And
yeah,
being on the list
it drops you down. Right.
Drops you down. And, you know, and I think, and I when talking to people when I got mine, I heard some people say they're going to just stay with the LVAD. A friend of mine's had his for about 9 years, and he just received his heart. And when he got the call for the heart, he was kind of thinking, and he's a younger fella, he was kind of thinking, yeah, I've been doing well. He coached basketball and did all this traveling. He said, I've been doing well with the LVAD. Do I really want to go through another open heart operation? But he decided, you know, since the heart came available, he had to decide real quick.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
he's gonna go ahead and gonna do that. And so after 9 years, now he has a heart. So,
Now
but you know,
that's a conversation we've been having on the show. As a lot of
yes,
people are like, they know what to do with the LVAD, they know what to expect with the LVAD, and
hmm
they get used to it. So, do they want to stay? I was just talking to a young lady a few weeks ago, Miss Dakia Williamson. She was like,
hmm
I'm good with it. I declined to get a transplant because I know what to do with what I have now.
right. And you know, you can. I was doing just about anything. I was very active in the community and different groups and everything. So I was doing everything but swim.
Hmm.
But uh, you know, and then I had thoughts about it. I said, well, I'm doing fine because it comes a part of you after a while. You know,
Hmm.
it's just like a natural thing. And I can tell you, once you get your heart, and for a little while afterwards, you walk out the house and feel like something is missing. You know, you don't have your
Yeah,
backup bag,
yeah,
you don't have the batteries. You know, because like it comes a part of you. You've been 6 years, and it's just something. It's just a part of your everyday life. You know, and emphasis on life.
yeah. So, when did you
Yeah.
get your new heart?
In February 7th, 2015,
I thought
and
so.
that was a 3 tries,
Uh
you
huh.
know. And you know, when I got the first call, and they told me in the beginning that you might get some false calls because the doctor has to make that decision once he lays eyes on the donor heart.
Hmm.
He has to make a decision if he wants to use that or not. So I had the first time I went, we were on the table and they did a test and I had too much fluid. So
Mm.
they stopped it right then. And I remember
Mm.
my wife telling me, said, look, no, the second time we went and the heart was kind of far and they didn't want to take the chance, you
Mm.
know, to do that. And then that's when my wife said, look, if y'all call us again, y'all might have to give me a heart because you know the wife can be involved just as much as the patient. And that's kind of crazy. When you get that call, you're not even thinking about it. You're just going about your daily, and all of a sudden you get that call, and we were running around bumping into each other. And you know, she was we about to get out the door. She said, I can't find my hat. I said, you can't find your hat? You worrying about your hat and I'm going to get a heart? Come on. But it's funny to think back on it now, how comical it was that night when we got that third call.
Okay.
And the third call was the charm and ended up being the best heart for me. Uh, because you know you have to match up. At first I was
Hmm.
thinking you could get in a healthy heart, but I'm 6'5", so you couldn't put a 5 foot person donor's
I
heart
explain
in
that to
me.
people all the time.
Yeah.
If you're a Hemi, if you're a Dodge Hemi, you can't put a
hmm
Toyota Corolla engine in a Dodge Hemi. It's just
Right.
not going to work.
Right. It's not going to, you know, function, you
Hmm.
know, properly. So the the fellow, my donor was 6'5",
Hmm.
and you know, 6'5". The weight has to be, you know, pretty much the same, and some other things smaller. But those are the two main things they look at. And because we had a person in my group, used to go to a support group soon after we got the heart, and well, I started going when I had the LVAD. I was the
Hmm.
only one that had the LVAD. Everybody else were heart recipients,
Hmm.
transplant recipients. And it was kind of encouraging because a lot of those people had their heart 12 years, 15 years. And I said, okay, well, this thing could work because, you know, you never know. Once you receive that heart, the body, it's not the original part.
Right.
So the body packs it. It does
Hmm.
what it does, you know. So we have to take those immune suppressant
Hmm.
uh, medication for the rest of our life to make sure to balance that out. But anyway, it was a trying thing. But I had some of my best years when I had my LVAD, you know, because leading up that, you know, I wasn't for years, I wasn't feeling well. And I would say this to men, you know, pay attention to the signs your body tells. You know, us as men, we'll shake things off, we'll feel things.
Hmm.
And if we don't feel it the next day, we think everything is all right. But if you feel something up in this area, you know, you need to pay attention to it because it's a reason. You know, your body is trying to tell you something. So, And men, as men and women, tell them that because their symptoms are a little different than what men may get
Mhm.
as far as what's going on with your heart. So we have to pay attention. I kind of ignored it for years because in 1999, I went to the doctor and he told me my heart was a little larger than it should be. And he said, well, we probably can deal with this with medications. And he gave me the medication, but I half did it.
Mhm.
And I was a smoker and I was still smoking. And just thinking I was about 45, but just thinking I was invincible. I don't know what I was thinking, but you know, I'm sure that sort of contributed to uh, me having to get a new heart. I don't know it's totally, but I had a family history of heart disease, so that was probably a main factor. But men, we have to just pay attention and put that ego aside sometimes. Like you can fight anything, and listen to your body when it's talking to you.
Mhm.
You know, that's what we need to do.
Yes, sir. So I don't know if you remember this or not, but you were my mentor when I was in the hospital to get my LVAD. I was in the
Oh, okay.
room. I was in the room right next to yours. I got in like 3 days before you were getting discharged.
Okay, because I don't remember, but I remember I talked to quite a few people,
Hmm.
and I took pride in that, because every time, and a lot of people were coming through in that, and they would come to myself and others that were in there and say, "Well, you mind talking to so and so?" Then because somebody talked to me,
Hmm.
and the guy that talked to me just had me laughing the whole time, so I laughed my way into a LVAD
What day?
concerns I had.
So let me watch this. When were you released from the hospital with your new heart?
I think it was. I think I was about a week and a half, 2 weeks or something like that. Because I was surprised. I thought I was going to be in there, laid up for a long time, and
I think I was
because
admitted February 16, 17, something like that. And then
and
I met you, and you had just gotten your heart, and 3 days later you were discharged.
oh, okay, so I'm wrong. It was less than that surprise, but if I think about it long enough, I probably remember
Mhm.
because there's a lot going on coming out, and
It's
so
such a
you,
whirlwind at that time because you're excited. You getting
yeah,
out the hospital. You got a new heart. You just went through this
yeah,
thing. So I tell people sometimes, I don't remember everything when it comes to my recovery because it was just so fast and it was so much and
right.
it's a lot to learn.
You indeed, and so when so I mean, how did you feel when they first told you you probably need the LVAD? It was some hesitation with you. I guess anything major when they talking open heart surgery is going to be a concern
Yeah, yeah.
for the patient.
Well, so I've been a cardiac patient my whole life. I had my first open heart surgery when I was 3. So I'm used to
Mm.
the whole cardiac life.
Oh, okay.
But it was the first time I had heard of an LVAD. So, being a cardiac patient, I was already open to the possibility, knowing that I would need some kind of surgery, maybe bypass or transplant. And I didn't have to think about it long. At the time, I had two young kids. Like,
Hmm.
I think my son was like 4 and my daughter was 8, 7 or 8, something like that. So, it was a no brainer. I want to be around for them. So, do what you got to do. They didn't have to talk me into it much.
Yeah, well, that attitude, I think I had that same kind of attitude, and I remember the doctors telling me my attitude, and especially in the beginning, was part of part of what was going to help me through this.
Mhm.
Sometimes you have a positive attitude and trust in the doctors and everything, and I know prayer works, but you have to put a combination of that prayer
Right.
and medical, the medical opportunities that out there for you. And I just went in there, let's go, because when you as was as sick as I was, and I just saw I was working at the Nordstrom. I've been there for about 12 years. I was in the men's department, men's
Mhm.
suits, and people started telling me, 'cause we're wearing suits every day, and I was noticing, oh man, this suit's kind of,
Mhm.
hanging off me. And people that are working with me come up, James, are you losing weight? And I was getting irritated and not feeling well. I was getting irritated with customers, my customers. They would come in there and they would come in there and ask me about, is my shirt come in yet? And I'm thinking to myself, he's worrying about a shirt and I need a new heart.
Uh-huh.
And I had that. And that's when I started saying, I'm going to have to sort of walk away from this because my attitude, what was important to me
Mm.
wasn't about if your shirt is here today or if
Right.
your suit, but that wasn't my customer's fault.
Right.
And so, I had to get away. And so all that, came together. And then I started, and then when I went in, we had an issue with the insurance,
Mhm.
from Nordstrom because I wasn't there anymore. But anyway, so I had to kind of wait a year to get that straight. So I was on medication, and every time I went to the heart clinic, they were amazed that I was still walking around
Mhm.
because I should have been in the hospital for that LVAD, 6 months or a year
Earlier,
ago.
right. Uh-huh.
Early. But then, right at the time, this is how I guess God works. But right at the time when I got my insurance straight, where they could take me in, that's when I really went down. I couldn't
Mhm.
have gone another week probably,
Mhm.
without getting that operation, and everything worked right in right on time as far as that concerned. Then I got the LVAD.
Yeah.
But
And that's another part of it that you don't think about until it's time. I think as a community and whole, we need to have insurance classes like for high school kids.
yeah,
Because you
yeah,
don't know what you ask. You don't know. Nobody knows what their insurance does until you need it.
right. And that's a very good point. And now on our show, or if I do a Facebook Live, I have a thing where I just do. It's called Slim Talk, where I just go up there and talk about certain things. And I always talk about as you prepare for your retirement, with your 401k or whatever situation you're doing, also prepare for unforeseen health issues
Mm-hmm.
because you can think you're prepared and you have a issue like you need a heart transplant or something else or cancer or something like that come. And then that's when you find out how much
Right. That's a whole nother level of insurance.
we kind of went through a setback financially because thinking that the insurance would, but there's so much stuff with those kind of major surgeries
Mm-hmm.
that are not covered. I mean, they're covered, but not complete, not 100%. It's
Mm-hmm.
still a certain amount that you're responsible for.
And I
Uh,
know I was under, especially when I was younger, I was under the misconception that I have health insurance, so I'm straight.
right. Hmm.
And there's more than that.
Yeah.
I can go to the doctor.
Yeah.
I got health insurance, not
Yeah. I don't care what
realizing that you got to pay your premium for your health insurance, then you got to pay
Yeah.
your deductible. And
Deductible.
they, you still paying. You still paying. What is the
You
health
still
insurance
pay.
for?
Yeah. And like you said, going through open heart surgeries like we've gone through, the cost is astronomical,
Hmm.
and that's why I say you prepare for the unknown.
Hmm.
Along with what you, because a lot of people with their financial advisors, okay, this is what I probably need to live on, at a certain point, and but you don't think about that, you know, somebody in the family having some kind of health uh, experience that might, really dip into your savings.
Right. Exactly.
You never, even though you have good insurance, not unless you have that kind of insurance that you probably uh, you were aware in the beginning, like you say, and you say, okay, what does this cover? What did this cover? And then you might have to pay a lot for it, but in the long run, it might be something that will really.
Bottom line, you got to pay.
You got to pay. You got to pay now, or if something happens, you pay later. And it might, like I said, it might not be you. It might be
Mhm.
another family member, and it can really turn things around is financially, uh, interrupt some of the plans that you thought you had in place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that if that hadn't happened, you've been fine. But when that happens, it sort of cuts into that. So sort of overcompensate for what you can do. Especially I tell young people that you have the opportunity, you have the time to kind of overcompensate for your retirement, and you know, because you never know what's going to happen, and knowing your family history, just like you had it all your life. Was it in your family? Was it?
On my father's side, yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather died
So
from a heart condition and high blood pressure and diabetes, the normal black people killing stuff we have.
yeah, yeah, and sometimes just knowing that can dictate uh, how you live your life. You know, diet wise and
Mm-hmm.
everything. You know, my daughter knows. I mean, I guess she's vegan now. I don't know if she's healthier because she has heart issues on my side and cancer on the mother's side. So
Oh,
she,
okay. So she
yeah,
adjusted her
she
diet.
right, right. So she no meat, no, but she was kind of doing that anyway. But she's very conscious now, since she knows she has those things in her immediate family
Mm-hmm.
and probably going back. And she has a 3-year-old now, so it's just something. And she checks certain things. And one other thing I tell people when they go to the doctor for the regular exam, sometimes you might have to ask your doctor for certain things you want. Even if you're feeling well, you might say, can you do a little thing on my heart? Can I get my
Mm-hmm.
heart checked out because I have a family history? Because they ask you that.
Right.
And so if they know you have a family history, there should be some things that they should be checking every 6 months to see if your heart is operating properly.
Yeah.
So it's just some, you have that family history. Make sure you're aware, what you want to be checked on when
Uh,
you go to visit the doctor.
Let me ask you this. I like to ask this of all of my guests who have been through LVAD and transplant. What was the easier recovery?
I think the easier recovery, believe it or not, was the transplant.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because right after they put the LVAD in, man, I had some, I came out, I was fine, and you can feel that thing in you.
Mm-hmm.
And I had pains in places, yeah, the easier recovery was, I can't remember, going through as much pain as I did with that when they put that LVAD in, especially the first one.
Mm-hmm.
The body really wasn't ready for that, and the first one I was really weak,
Mm-hmm.
when they put it in. So the body, so yeah, it was more difficult coming out of that transplant, that LVAD surgery at first. I don't know if it was a mind thing, because when I finally got the heart, only thing I could remember, I was full of fluid.
Uh-huh.
And when I got up to walk, my thighs, I always been a kind of thin guy. My thighs were rubbing. I said, I never, rubbing. I've seen other people do it, but that was kind of strange and funny to me at the same time. But once that fluid off me and I could kind of walk again, you know, I didn't until you asked. I never thought about which one was, more difficult to recover from. But thinking about it, it was the LVAD surgery, especially the first one,
Well, that gives me
being
hope.
so weak. Yeah, yeah, you'll come. I mean, it's just, after 6 years, I mean, and that call will come when you least expect it. Sometimes you get a call, or maybe this is it, and it's your a family member or something like that,
Uh-huh.
and then it's your mind completely, and you get a call, say, "Hello, hey, can you get to the hospital?" And all 3 times took me by surprise,
Yeah.
and but never got the call when I was thinking that might be the call. So I just put it out my mind. But when it comes, you're ready. You kind of go crazy. Have your stuff. We had our stuff ready. We run around bumping into each other. It was like the Three Stooges, but it's two Stooges running, you know. But we were so excited. So when that opportunity comes, it's really a miracle. It's really something. And we always talk about being donors.
Mm-hmm.
Just had a friend that donated his kidney to his next door neighbor. Out of all the people they tested, his next door neighbor was a perfect match.
Right.
and that's the example of being a living donor. But you know, I'm a sort of advocate for organ donation. And in the beginning, it was surprising at the reasons people gave for not wanting to do it. It was kind of arcade. Some of the reasons, you know,
Mm-hmm.
they want to be buried with all their parts. And I said, so it could be worm food. I mean, what,
Yeah.
you know, so you know, I think people are coming around now of knowing the importance of being an organ donor.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of the excuses is like you don't really. It's again, it's another one of those things that until it affects you, it's not important to you.
It's not
And
important to you.
once I got it affected me and I needed an organ, it really irritates me sometimes. Some of the excuses I hear, especially from my people, because we know,
Yeah,
I will have better chances of getting um, a heart from a person of color. I have better chances of survival. It's just this is kind of how it works because I have better
right.
chances of the blood work type matching and being compatible with my blood type. So, yeah, that's a little frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, it really is. And like you said, I never really think about it. And I was always been ever since I had my license, or not too soon after, I always checked that. But I just checked it because I thought it was something to do. But I never really thought about how important that was
Mm-hmm.
until I needed one. And frankly, I kind of saw the importance sooner than that, but I still didn't take it. But after you go through that, you become an advocate and you try to get people. And I didn't realize how some people bring up religion, and then I looking it up, it said most religions uh, don't condone people for being organ donors. And
Mm-hmm.
so people that bring that up are really just using that
As an
and any
excuse.
kind of
Yeah.
you know, don't realize when you're gone, how many lives you can affect
Mm-hmm.
after you're gone. You know,
Yeah. Mr.
not
Overton,
only the
I really appreciate your time today.
yeah,
So
no
this is how
problem.
I normally end my episodes. If someone came to you knowing that they were need either LVAD or a heart transplant, came to you for advice, what would you tell
Well, first thing with the LVAD, some of the people I talked to, and they were kind of leery about the LVAD. I said, well, how do you feel now?
them?
And they would say, well, I feel pretty bad, weak, and everything. I said, well, imagine feeling like almost 100% better. Imagine giving yourself a chance if you have a family to continue your life with your family. Think about that, and think about the advances in medicine, and what they're doing now, and how good your chances are. You know, so mainly, and that would be about the same with a heart transplant person. If they're leery about that, just think about how much you cherish life, and how important you are to others that are around you. Sometimes it goes beyond how you feel about yourself. It's a lot of people that depend on you, not necessarily financially, but emotionally, for you to be here, and you have the opportunity to extend that time with them. You know, so think about that while you're thinking about if you want to go through that, because the alternative can affect a lot of people in a lot of different ways.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I want to thank you again. I'm going to have you on my other show now, though,
Yeah,
because
I'll be glad. And likewise, we're going to have you on our show.
yes,
It's
sir.
called Coffee Talk, but we have people on there from Hampton Roads, and anything that affects Portsmouth,
Oh,
anything
I'm P Town
dealing with the
adjacent. I grew up in Camelot.
Oh, okay, all right, yes. So you know about P Town.
Yes, 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 sir. Cavalier Man is my cousins.
Yeah. So you grew up in so you did high school and everything
I
in
went to Deep Creek.
Camelot.
Yep, I went to
Oh,
Camelot Elementary, Deep Creek Junior, Deep Creek High, and Norfolk State.
okay, okay. Now I'll show my co-host. I have two Norfolk State Spartans as my co-host, so we
All
go at
right,
it
so
all the
then
time.
you ain't gonna mind if I do a little bit of this then.
No, no. Okay. I think they might not mind, but me, I'm a Virginia Union Panther,
Oh,
so
that's okay. You're a cousin.
HBCU, brother, HBCU.
Yes,
But we
sir.
just have fun rivalry, and I did take some classes in Norfolk State, so Norfolk State is dear to my heart too. But VUU comes first, so we like to have our little fun on the show about the different universities, but it all comes down to HBCUs and the
Yes, sir.
education that we those universities.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I want to thank you again for having you. This, ladies and
I,
gentlemen, this has been LVAD Talk. You can catch us at lvadtalk.com. Leave us a message, leave us a voicemail. If you want to come tell your story, you're more than welcome. Hit us up. Everybody's welcome to tell their story. Um, Again, Mr. Overton, thank you. I'm Shawn. That's Mr. James Slim Overton, and we out.
yeah, thank you. Take
Thank you,
care.
sir.
God bless
Mr. Overton, don't hang up. Don't hang up.
you.
Thank
I'm
you.
still here.
All right.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I really enjoyed that. And I was serious about looking at the things you did. Now, I did a podcast for a while, but I tried it out on the, not, and I was going to elevate to the way you do it now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Not Spotify, but where you can just do it on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I did it that just trying it out and had some pretty good podcasts on there. And I
Was it
said one
Anchor?
day huh? Yeah, I
Was
did it on Anchor.
I use Anchor still.
Yeah, I did it on Anchor, and I still have my Anchor account. And I did quite a few podcasts. This was during the pandemic when we were shut in,
Mm-hmm.
and haven't done any in a while. I need to do some more because I kind of enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But we're looking to expand what we do. We went into the Zoom when the pandemic started.
Mm-hmm.
Was going into the studio. I was doing it solo myself, called the Seven Cities Forums of Hampton Roads, and I had a lot of different people from all over. And I was going into the studio,
Mm-hmm.
and when the pandemic came, no, right before the pandemic came, we changed the format. I wanted to bring on two other hosts, co-hosts,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to have a lady who, a good friend of mine, then brought my cousin on, who was a retired colonel. He's the guy that brings up all the political every guest we have, he can find a way to
To nudge
put
them.
politics. I said, well, politics is everywhere. You know, it's local and it's everywhere. And then we get the flavor from our lady there, and so we've had some pretty nice guests. We try to have a positive spin on Portsmouth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not talk about all. You know, we honor students that were doing well because all you see is the bad things.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we've had people on there. I've had Dr. Newby on
Okay.
uh, earlier on during the pandemic, you know, telling people how it can affect your heart. And then recently we had somebody talking about the heart hospital. So we cover a variety of subjects,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been doing it on Zoom, but we're trying to expand. Last week we went out on location, military circle,
Mm-hmm.
and did a thing on this lady that's an artist
Mm-hmm.
over there. And she had some artwork displayed, and I didn't realize how much money you can get from that art. It was like abstract art, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and it's a lot of it's up to your interpretation. You know, we don't know. She had what she said she was thinking about, and I'm looking at it and said, it looks like a fish swimming in swimming by in the ocean. You know, I looked at the prices. The least price was $600, and it went up. And the reason I mentioned that because I always tell we talk about on the show about exposing our young kids to different things. It's not always about basketball, football, or
Mm-hmm.
sports, but we never realize what kind of talent is out there in our neighborhoods amongst our youth unless we expose them to other things. You know, I guess you coming up, you might have sat beside someone in your class that sit there and doodle and draw and say, wow, that's pretty good. But it's never been, you know, cultivated or whatever words
Mm-hmm.
you want to use. that person. Next thing you know, that person is doing something completely different, and you remember, man, that guy could really draw.
Right,
He
right.
should have, expanded, or that guy, his mathematical mind is something, but he's out there using that mathematical mind to sling drugs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to count his money and to keep up with his money. So we just have to expose our kids to other things. Sometimes you might have to take them to a symphony. You never know. They might say, "I'm not going," but that guy sitting there, something hits him. The next
Mm-hmm.
thing you know, he's playing the cello all over the world. And that was his thing. So that's one of the things we like to do. We like to talk about, you know, what can we do for our youth early on
Mm-hmm.
before we lose them
Yeah,
to the streets.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I know, just like Portsmouth, y'all experiencing all these shootings and everything, and it seems like they're getting younger and younger. Uh,
So, and it
and
was different when I came up. When I came up, it was, I want to say the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. And I remember I'm of the generation where I love growing up in Portsmouth because
mhm.
that's back when the fishbowl was popping.
Yeah,
That's back when we used to have these little step teams after school, and then on Saturdays they'll have the little stage set up at the McDonald's, and like the little business communities, and everybody will get together and we'll have a little step show, and you get your little trophy and bragging rights or whatever. And so it was I think that at those times it was a lot more community engagement than
yeah,
we have now. And that's one of the reasons the kids, they don't have some. We always had something to do because it was always some kind of competition or talent show or football, or
yeah.
I was in a band. And one of the reasons I was in a band is because I grew up in Portsmouth. And if you grew up in Portsmouth, you know about Norfolk State, you know about Spartans, so band
The,
was one of the things that kept me out of trouble. Say it again.
the Greyhounds, the IC
Yeah.
Norfolk
Yeah, I
Greyhounds.
know. So I almost tried to change my address my senior year so I can march just 1 year with Norcom. That's all I wanted.
Yeah, and you're right. And I grew up in the '70s in Portsmouth, and so what you're just saying extended on into the '80s and '90s because some of the things, and it was a strong sense of community, like you said. And you heard people in my generation always talking about who could discipline anybody,
Mm-hmm.
could discipline. Can't do that today because then you have a problem with the parents.
Right.
But and in my neighborhood now, I'm living in the same neighborhood that I grew up in and involved with the Civic League. And I see the difference in the neighborhood because people coming in now, they're coming, and your next door neighbor might not even speak to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you try to extend the olive branch to them, but and I tell my wife we can't really blame them because whatever situation they come from, that's not something they do,
Mm-hmm.
or they're not used to any kind of public community engagement.
Right.
So they pretty much stick to themselves. And the more new people we get, the more of that same kind of attitude comes in. And it's not like they're bad, but they're just not used to, wherever they grew up, you don't interact like that.
You don't speak to people.
Right.
Yeah.
You might need your neighbor. Your house is on fire or something like that, or something happens.
Well, I'm gonna contact you. I got a couple of things I got to finish doing up today, and I'm gonna contact you because I want you. We need to have the same conversation on my other show.
Okay, that sounds good. And I want to have the conversation with you, and I'm sure my co-hosts will embrace you with you. Especially if you have on anything that says Norfolk State.
Oh, I can make that happen.
Yeah. And, I mean, once you come on camera and you got, something that, but that'll be fun at first. But to come on there because I like to bring people on there. This kind of conversation about health, and we talk about mental health a lot too, because sometimes that can come into play when you're having some kind of physical problems. It can affect you. Send you into depression, and you need to be aware of that too. And it's like a stigma in our Black communities that, I'm nothing wrong with me,
Right.
But
And then when you
sometimes,
add having to go through mental health problems and then add something like having to deal with an LVAD at the same time.
right,
Yeah.
because you
Because
know,
that's a conversation I have on my show a lot of times. Like they prepare you physically, but they don't prepare you mentally. And then if you already was not mentally together and then you add this on top of it, that's a lot.
it could take you over the top,
Yeah.
and so yeah, you feel like I do. It's important. We're quick to take care of our physical health, but we forget how fragile our mental health can be.
Mhm.
You can be depressed one day, come home, say I'm depressed, but that can turn into something really deep.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to be aware of that and seek help, and don't be ashamed or believe the stigma that has been going around in our neighborhoods for so long. So I appreciate you, brother, for dealing with that, because that conversation needs to always be talked about.
Yes, sir.
Dealing with this up here as well.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, I got to
Thanks again,
go.
man.
I got editing to do, and I'll talk to you
Yeah.
shortly.
Okay. Take care of yourself, bro.
Yes, sir.
And we'll
Thank
talk.
you.
All right. Behold.
The green and gold.
Oh, one more thing, man.
Yes, sir.
My birthday was Friday, and I went and see. I saw Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Oh, you did? I heard it was a good concert.
Yeah. During the show, they came out. The horns came out. They didn't play that song, but it's the song that Norfolk State used to play a lot on the horns. That was by Earth, Wind, and Fire. Can't the title of it, but
we played anything by Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah, but when they started playing it, you could hear the crowd. You know, it was a lot of Norfolk State crowd in there. It was like Earth, Wind, and Fire is playing Norfolk State song. But it was Earth, Wind, and Fire song originally. And we saw members of the band afterwards, and they said, man, yeah, all the HBCUs were playing, their music that featured those horns.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. That's one of the reasons Earth, Wind, and Fire is a good influence on me.
Yeah.
I was shocked when I was a little boy. I thought it was a massive horn section. And when I got older and found out it was only 3 guys, it blew my mind.
It was just 3 guys tonight. Three Friday night. And it sounded like,
a whole band. Yeah.
A whole
Yes, sir.
All right. I won't cut in anymore. Take care.
No, you're fine. Have a good one.
Been my pleasure. Take care.
Thank you.
VUU. For real, the maroon and steel.
I'm gonna let you have that for now. Later on, bye-bye.
Take care. Have a good day.